So I've seen the film 3 times now,
Wow,
and I
awesome.
absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite movies of the year, and I
Thank
think
you.
you guys just are incredible in the film. When the two of you are on screen together, it's absolutely magnetic, such great chemistry, especially the makeup scene. I think that's my favorite part of the whole film. When you were reading that on the script, did it kind of jump off the script that would be such a climactic moment in the film?
I don't know that it did. I mean, they have many scenes together. I think it's. I'm trying to think. I mean, because we have the cooking scene, we have the flower arranging scene, we have the makeup scene. So it was actually interesting that all of these pursuits are. There's something about them that's like, hyper feminine, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this one maybe is the most of that. And I think because we're physically touching each other, it's really compelling.
Right. I know, I couldn't tell what was going to happen. I was like, are they going to kiss? Are they going to, what is actually going to happen here? And so I was talking a little bit to Charles, and he was saying, because I asked him about the humor elements of the film, because I think there's such a good tonal balance, and I feel like the humorous bits kind of allow the audiences to release a bit of the tension. Mm-hmm. And so he said that when he saw the film first with an audience, he was surprised that people were even laughing in some parts. Is that how you guys felt? Because he said filming on the day was very tense, so he was surprised that there was laughter.
I think it was clear in the script that there was humor,
Mm-hmm.
and that it did have this very unusual balance. Like, I mean, I remember reading the scene where she's looking at the audition tapes and she's like, they're not sexy at all. And I was like, oh, like gross and funny. So you could definitely read it in Samy's script, but I think only Todd could have found this like perfect, delicate balance, because there's really genuine, heartfelt like emotion. I mean, when Julie's crying about the cakes and stuff, I mean, it really makes me so moved. And then there's stuff that is genuinely funny, and then it has this strange tone all the time that I think he created by the way he shot it, with the way he edited it, with the music, and also, of course, all the casting. But I think it was very much Todd's vision that allowed it to thread that very specific line of humor and discomfort and real, genuine emotion.
Absolutely, like the hot dog scene. I feel like that's always going to make people laugh.
Exactly.
The other thing that really stood out to me, not only was the use of mirrors and reflection, which I thought was really cool, but also just his choice to have such long takes, because I think that really allowed you guys such room to work off of each other. And so in terms of the long takes, did you guys do a lot of rehearsal before that, or was it just kind of on the day?
It was on the day. We didn't rehearse anything.
Really?
Yeah, we had 23 days, and we all came. I think Charles came first, and then I came, and then Natalie came, and then boom, we were shooting. So it was, I mean, everybody was really working at a very high level, and Todd is always so prepared and knew exactly what he wanted shot-wise, and so that was helpful for us. It gave us a tremendous scaffold.
Well, it was such a pleasure talking to you two. I absolutely loved the film, like I said. So thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you
and
so
it was a
much.
pleasure to meet with you.
Thank you.
Charles, my fantasy football friend.
Yes.
I have seen the movie 3 times now, and your performance is one of my favorites of the year. Absolutely loved it. I loved how restrained you are in the role, because I think it really makes it hit even more at the very end of the film, without getting too much into spoilers, to finally see him have that release. So can you kind of talk about developing that process of how you were going to kind of play the character?
Yeah, it really started with Samy's script. I mean, there's so much in between the text, and it kind of created this vast field to just explore who this man was. And really looking at Joe's circumstance, and at such a young age, given this responsibility of being a father, and just kind of how, and with public perception, and then just the scrutiny that he went through personally, how he would internalize that, and how that would kind of manifest from his emotional makeup, the complex emotional makeup, into the physicality. And I think there's so much strength in quietness, there's so much that can be expressed beyond just words, and how we move, how we blink,
Absolutely.
how we talk. You know, this idea of repression that Joe has, like there's something like in the voice too, that there's this restraint that you talk about. You know, it's this, Joe created this, you know, in order to survive, he created this adaptive adult child to navigate in life, to really protect himself in a way. And beyond that protection, what fueled him was being a great father to his 3 kids, a loving husband, a provider, and all these things really just, it really moved me about Joe.
And I really love how the film does a great job of balancing humor and then drama, and especially with your character when he's on the roof of the house, without getting, again, too much into spoilers. I love that it kind of creates this release for the audience to be able to laugh at a really terrible situation. So how did you balance that tone with the character?
You know, that's really interesting you say that, because when we were filming for those 23 days, never did it ever seem funny or humorous at all, especially filming that day. I mean, it was just heartbreaking, you know? So it's interesting to hear the audience receive it and find humor in it. I think sometimes you can't help but laugh in the face of tragedy, because it's easier to laugh than to cry, and it's so uncomfortable. And there's so much wit and depth to Samy's writing that really allowed everyone to really just kind of come together, and just it was intense and it was dramatic. It never felt funny or anything, just more so heartbreaking.
Interesting, yeah, because the audience does laugh in quite a few scenes in the film. So
Yeah,
were
and
you
I'm
surprised?
you know, it's interesting. I mean, like, you know, I'm just surprised looking at my experience that day of filming compared to, you know, it just goes to say, like, you know, my job is to, sometimes I can get caught in the idea of trying to tell the audience how to feel, but it's like, no, I gotta just, you know, tell my character story, you know, and then just whatever response comes from whatever I do is out of my control. And to see that, it's, you know, if I'm trying to understand it, it's like, oh, it's because, you know, tragedy, sometimes it's just easier to laugh, you know, but it's heartbreaking.
It is, and it was very organic, I feel like. And I think it might have been a little bit of the audience just needing to laugh at that point. Like, it gave us an excuse.
Yeah, there's a need to, like, release,
Exactly.
right? You know, like, I rather release with a laugh than a cry.
Exactly. Anyway, it was so great to meet you and great to talk fantasy
Yes.
football a little
Yes,
earlier. Good
yes.
luck on the rest of the year with your team.
Thank you.
So like I said, I am a huge fan of your work. I think a lot of my favorite, like, female-driven movies and TV series have been yours. I love Mildred Pierce, Carol, and of course this. I was just wondering what kind of draws you to these stories, these female-driven stories. And also I want to comment that I loved all the female representation you had on stage last night and behind the scenes.
Right.
So I thought that was really awesome.
Well, that's it. You know, I've had female representation inside and outside and all over my life. And women played a formative role. As a kid, my mom, my grandmother, my art teacher, my sister, you know, and then that turned into formative, lifelong relationships and friendships with women. No, I'm interested in the female subject and the dilemmas that women encounter that are unique, and that I think, you know, some people want to tell escapist stories and genre stories and fantasy stories, and I'm more interested in the stories of the lives that we all lead. And so domestic stories, which are often where women are found, are the stories of all of our lives.
Absolutely.
You know, and they take us back to, and these are, even all that said, all these different stories starring women about women are very different, each to the next.
And something else that I found so visually striking in your movies, especially in this one, is your use of reflection and mirrors. I've noticed that in Carol, especially when Therese is behind Carol, and Mildred Pierce as well. Can you kind of talk about what draws you to that?
Yeah, well, again, I find them film specific and setting specific, and so in the photography of Saul Leiter was very, very influential. First in Mildred Pierce, but ultimately we fully embraced his work and his aesthetic and in Carol, and that sense of refracted images where there's something in between. There's filtration, there's dust, there's precipitation, there's atmosphere between us and the person on the other side of the glass. And that put us very much in the time and place of New York City in the one film, and in Mildred Pierce in Los Angeles, and in a different era, of course, too. But in this film, it was different. There were so many mirrors that occupied central settings in the script where scenes would be played in the mirrors. And I thought, you know what, let's just make the camera the mirror. Yeah. And let's let the actors make the mirror with their gazes. And look right into the dead barrel into the lens as themselves, and look right off the lens as the reflection of the other. And watch that interesting sort of interplay of shifting gazes unfold as this story unfolds about people looking at each other or refusing to look at themselves and so forth.
I thought that was really, really cool and really well done.
Thank you so much.
And so last question for you. I noticed that a lot of your films are shot in the past. Even in this one, it's shot, maybe 5 or 6 years in the past.
Yeah.
Why did you make that decision with this film?
Really simple with this film. The script, I think, was just set in present tense, but I just wanted to remove it just before the most recent Trump era political noise that we live within, that I just felt like might be a distraction in trying to assign partisanship or recognition of all that to these characters who live in such a bubble, especially when we ended up having it be set in Georgia, which is such a pivotal, amazingly pivotal state these days politically. But I just thought right before that would be a quieter place for this strange story to unfold.
So like I was just telling you, I absolutely loved the movie. I just thought it was so well done, the tone especially. It was like you were kind of walking a tightrope with that. And so when you were crafting the script, was that one of the hardest parts to nail, or what would you say was the hardest part for you to do?
That's an interesting question. I think it's just, it's a balancing act, as you say. It's like I see it as kind of there are two types of humor in the film. There's this one that comes from incredible uncomfortability, some darkness and tension that needs to be released, and then with the actors coming in, there can be more sort of glib, satirical humor as well, braided in, and just making sure that is balanced with the humanity and the heartbreak ultimately of the story.
And so again, I'm really interested in your process in writing the script. So when you're writing the script, did you have any actors in mind when you were kind of thinking of these characters?
Well, I wrote the script. I didn't have representation. I wrote this. It's I don't know if I should say this, but I wrote it in my hall closet. There was a window, so it wasn't really crazy, but we took the coat thing out and I would sit in there in my office. But basically no, because that would have felt a little delusional, I think, at that point, to be like, I'm going to write this for Natalie Portman.
But even in your mind, because sometimes when I read a book, I'm like, I'm picturing, Kate Winslet or someone in this role.
Right.
Is that how it is when you're writing, or are they kind of just nebulous characters to you?
They can be sort of, it really depends. For this, it kind of, they came sort of formed and were very and they were filled by shoes I couldn't have really imagined ultimately.
It was absolutely amazing, the cast that you got for this, the heaviest hitters in Hollywood.
I know. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And so also, when you were writing the script, and you saw it on screen, what were you most excited? What scene were you most excited to see put on film? Was it the makeup scene?
I love that. I mean, it's such an exciting process to get to see these things put to life, and all the choices that are made by Todd and the incredible craftspeople he has with them and the actors. The makeup scene is such a masterclass for those two actresses, and I love, of course, the way it's framed through the mirror and the amount of pause and silence that they are able to cultivate. That Julianne, the patience is such. It makes your heart race. It's exciting.
It does, because you never know where it's going to go. I was like, are they going to kiss? Are they going to like claw each other's eyes out? Like, where is this going to go? So I thought the script did a great job building that tension as well. So was that also one of the biggest surprises that you had when seeing the final film on screen, was those pauses?
Some of the biggest surprises, I think one thing that I really loved that I've seen almost in layers every time I've seen the movie is the choices that Charles Melton made physically. The kind of in some moments he's so childlike, and in some he seems much older than he is, and that was really subtle choices that him and Todd worked on. That was so brilliant and really moving to me.
Yeah, and it seemed like that was surprising for Todd as well. He was talking last night at the Q&A about how it opened the character a bit to him. Was it the same for you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, Charles, like I always knew once we got into it, it was, they were going to discover someone, Laura Rosenthal, who's just an amazing casting director and so cool. It was up to the task of finding this person, and really they looked at a lot of people that Charles, almost because he's known from a TV show, like was up against people who had never done anything. It was a really wide search, and it was so unexpected. It's really not ever what you would think, and he's amazing. I'm so excited for him. He's amazing.
I am too. And I'm excited for you too.
Oh, thank you.